Welcome to the committee meeting. We do have a quorum. I'm joined by Mr. Weezer and Mr. Harris Dawson. Mr. Clerk, why don't we quickly go through the agenda and let's get started.
Richard Williams, Office of the City Clerk. Would you like me to go ahead and read all of the items into the record?
In fact, we're going to go through items 6 through 10. So why don't you read those items, and then I'll tell you, I think I have some cards on them.
Okay. Item number 6 is Resolution Courts of Farrell and Department of Animal Services report and Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to the city's position on Proposition 12, the Preventing Cruelty to Farm Animals Act. For your information, this item is scheduled for council on Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018. Item number 7 is Resolution Buscaino-Koretz and Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to the city's position on H.R. 4147, the Clean Ports Act of 2017. Item number 8 is Resolution Buscaino-Koretz and Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to the city's position on H.R. 4144, the Port Drivers Bill of Rights Act of 2017. Item number 9 is Resolution Buscaino-Martinez and Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to the city's position on H.R. 6489, the Safe Liquefied Petroleum Gas Storage Act of 2018. Item number 10 is a City Ethics Commission report relative to approval of amendments to the Conflict of Interest Code for the Economic and Workforce Development Department. This item is a time limit file with the last day for council action of December 5th, 2018.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I want to call up Chris Hendrickson, Brian Alexander, and Crystal Moreland. Please come forward. Identify yourself, please, and good morning.
Greetings. Thank you so much. My name is Chris Hendrickson. I'm working as the California Campaign Manager for the Humane League on the Yes on Prop 12 campaign. As you know, 10 years ago in 2008, California passed a historic proposition, Prop 2, which required veal calves, egg-laying hens, gestating pigs who are subjected to intensive confinement must have enough room to stand up, turn around, and fully extend their limbs. Prop 2, which was supported by 63% of California voters, respected consumer demand and started a national and now global trend towards the availability of cage-free eggs. While an improvement to conditions at the time, Prop 2 is imperfect and left millions of animals languishing in confinement and enduring other abuses. Prop 12 on the ballot November 6th upgrades Prop 2, requiring minimum amounts of usable floor space for those species, and would also ensure that the birds express their natural behaviors and extends California's egg sale law to cover liquid eggs and increased enforcement mechanisms. Prop 2 is the right thing for California. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Brian Alexander. I'm Corporate Relations Manager for Mercy for Animals. Thank you for considering this important resolution. Mercy for Animals has conducted more than 50 undercover investigations into America's factory farms and slaughterhouses, including some here in California. Our investigators have worked in numerous facilities that use intensive confinement systems for egg-laying hens, mother pigs, and calves, the species protected if Proposition 12 passes, and we've witnessed to immense suffering that they endure when crammed into these cages and crates. This proposition is supported by more than 500 California veterinarians, some of the state's largest animal shelters, and a broad range of other organizations, including the Center for Food Safety, the California Sierra Club, the United Farm Workers, and the California Democratic Party. They all recognize the inherent cruelty and food safety concerns when animals are confined so tightly they can barely move. We hope to add the Los Angeles City Council to this list of supporters to help pass this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sherry, are you here? Come on up. And Annie. And Annie, I'm going to let you give your last name. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Crystal Moreland with the Humane Society of the United States. And council members, thank you so much for considering this resolution. Proposition 12 will be the highest reaching farm animal protection law in the world by upgrading the state's current farm animal protection laws and enacting a sales ban of veal, eggs, and pork from facilities that force animals to spend their entire lives in extreme confinement. Such confinement causes tremendous suffering and increases food safety risks. Farm animals and Los Angeles consumers deserve protection from such inhumane and substandard products in the marketplace. Many other states and food retailers have adopted cage-free standards, and it's time for California to follow suit and continue its leadership in animal welfare. We hope to add the LA City Council to the roster of endorsements alongside the Los Angeles Times, the ASPCA, Center for Food Safety, and hundreds of California veterinarians with the Humane Society of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning and good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you. My name is Cherie Shankar, and I'll make this very short. I am the petitioner on record for Proposition 12, and I do appreciate that the LA City Council is considering supporting our proposition, and I just ask for your yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you and good to see you. All right. And if I could get Lee O'Brien. Good morning.
Hi. You ready for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, council members. My name is Dr. Annie Harvillis, founder of Animal Wellness Centers and Animal Wellness Foundation. I have been a veterinarian for 15 years and a Los Angeles-based business owner for 10 years. I speak on behalf of Animal Wellness Action as a member of the Board of Directors and California veterinarians to ask you to endorse Proposition 12. A yes vote on Prop 12 will ensure that veal calves, breeding pigs, and egg-laying hens aren't locked in cramped cages on factory farms, and will ensure that meat and eggs sold in California meet this modest animal welfare standards. Factory farms are incubators for disease. Animals are kept in extremely stressful conditions, and the intense confinement of the animals make it easier for disease to spread rapidly. Elevated cortisol from stress lowers immune function and creates a breeding ground for infectious disease. This is not just a problem for animals. The CDC estimates that each year roughly 1 in 6 Americans, 48 million people get sick. 128,000 are hospitalized and 3,000 die of foodborne diseases.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope you endorse Prop 12.
Thank you, Doctor. Next.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lee O'Brien. I work at the Humane Society of the United States, and I'm here to ask for your support of Proposition 12. The fact of the matter is that most pork sold in California today comes from factory farms using gestation crates, and it's still legal to sell veal from crated calves in California. Prop 12 will ban the sale of these products coming from these horribly cruel crates and cages, and it will also set the highest legal space requirements for veal calves and for pregnant pigs. Prop 12 will also add enforcement mechanisms to current California law to allow increased ability to bring cases against violators. And as my colleague said, it is widely supported by a number of groups. It is also endorsed by the Los Angeles Times, by Sierra Club California, and by the NRDC. So I ask for your yes vote, please.
Thank you. Okay, let me get Mr. Previn. I thought I saw you. Mr. Previn, if you would come up, you'll be followed by Mr. Spindler. Mr. Previn, I'm going to let you go for 2 minutes and then 1 minute of public comment. 2 minutes on all items and 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your meeting this morning, and it's very exciting. We had a Prop 10 debate at Studio City Neighborhood Council the other night. It was very exciting. We heard from both sides, and I think it really helps people to hear from both sides. So we're going to roll it over and have another one in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a couple of Friday night fights where we're going to hear from people on the ballot, both sides, because, you know, it's important to mix it up and have good debate. And the people in our community love it. You know, they don't always agree, but we're civil about it, and that's what we like. Today, you got a bunch of great stuff, sir. This is fantastic. And I want to thank Koretz, obviously, and Buscaino, who together are really teaming up for the people in the port. They're teaming up. Let's just leave it at that. I can't quite tell what they're doing, but they're working on some reduction in pollution exemptions, and they're also putting together a federal task force. Nobody loves federal task force more than you guys. Now, as for the ACE program, this is your cannabis folk are down here today, and they're worried. They don't want to be harangued and recriminalized, but you need to do something. And I know Mike Fuhr's running around. He got 500 characters in a couple of raids, but I'm concerned about this whole process and administrative citation enforcement, which is, I know Mr. Englander is he's going to be abnegating his position. And how appalling to go be a lobbyist while seated as a council
let's stay
member.
on the
But sir,
subject.
let's move forward. He one who put this tagging people for nasty citation program into place. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't result in any kind of a court action, so it doesn't clog up the courts. It's just a nasty lien on these people who are trying to make a living. Now, I don't know if they're doing behavior in these cannabis environments that's really illegal, or it's just, once again, the kind of teetering back and forth between the people you like and know and everybody else who wants to compete. I don't know. I know Kat Packer does not have the full staffing that she needs to get the responses out the door timely, and that's why Westall, Andrew's doing a great job. And let's give a shout out to Spiker, the kind of ringleader for everybody. You guys are doing a great job of making
Thank
the
you,
best
Mr.
you can.
Previn. Let's give him his 1 minute general public comment.
Right, so the 1 minute is about campaign finance. Now, this morning, people were expecting, and we got Weezar and Marquise Harris-Dawson here, two very influential fundraisers in their own way, because he's from a not-for-profit, and this man is CD14, the biggest, most powerful, after Koretz and Bonin in the world. So the campaign finance ordinance that you guys are looking at is going to favor only upstairs candidates. So this is why we got to shake it up and make sure that the $25,000 threshold to even access public matching money in a campaign for council district goes away, and instead it becomes a stipend, so that because in the previous election, sir, this is going to upset you, 25% of the people who got money were only 25% of the people got public money, and they were all the incumbents, except for the great incumbent like you, who didn't need the money, and Englander, who didn't need the money, which skews the numbers. So, sir, I know it's confusing, but we want debates. We want 2 debates in the primary and 2 in the general election, and that has to be a requirement. Everybody who's on the ballot has to agree to debate and defend their position.
Thank you, Mr.
sir.
Previn. Okay, Mr. Spindler, you get 2 minutes on the items, and then your 1 minute for general public comment.
Yes, so as an animal myself, I support this item on Proposition 12. Now, I know that my colleague here, Mr. Spindler, who owns a ranch, is not for it, but I'm for it. I protect my fellow animals. I protect chickens. I protect the pigs, especially that pig Paul Koretz.
Stay on the subject,
cows,
Mr. Spindler.
and I protect goats, including Paul Gregorian. Yes, so we support this. This is also, we need enforcement mechanisms. As you see here, that we have here, Mr. Wesson loves and endorses KFC on his Twitter account. Does KFC abide by these regulations? No. KFC does not, and yet you put up on your Twitter account
Stay on the subject, Mr. Spindler.
you are endorsing KFC on your Twitter and paying it by tax monies.
You want to just go to your general
No.
public comment? Then stay on the subject.
Yes. So now, what other types of shit do we have here today? Federal Task Force on Truck Leasing. This is good, as long as this is supported by the Teamsters. If it is not supported by the Teamsters, don't fuck with the Teamsters. You see what happened the other day when I was here, and I was going, Teamsters, Teamsters. And you said, you shut up, and I said, no. I said, I and my uncle family are lifelong Teamsters. So if it does not support by the Teamsters, then I am against it. Very, very much.
Give him his 1 minute for general.
So again, on Herb Wesson's Twitter account, he's got not 1, but 2 advertisements for KFC chicken on his Twitter account. These are not photoshopped. He's got a big chicken KFC bucket behind him in Koreatown. He's got another one claiming he's one of the 11 herbs and spices. Yes, and why does he do this? Campaign money, free advertising. He is reaching out to corporate donors by playing little games on his government-funded website as the council president. That's what these fuckers always do. They're always kissing the ring of corporations like Wells Fargo, but they're here saying they're bad. So yes, I am going to present this evidence. I'm accusing Herb Wesson of being a
Thank you.
chicken man.
Thank
He's
you.
the
Your time, Mr. Spindler, your time's expired, so please take your seat. Okay, that concludes comment. Let's deal with items 6 through 10. On item 6, members, unless you feel differently, let's adopt the CLA report and the resolution and note and file the Department of Animal Services report. Items 7 through 9 will adopt the CLA reports and resolution. And on item 10, we'll adopt the City Ethics Commission report. So without objection, those items are deemed approved. Mr. Clerk, why don't you now quickly go through items 1 through 5, and we'll dispense of them.
Item number 1 is the Department of Cannabis Regulation report. Department of Cannabis Relation reports relative to amendments to the city's cannabis procedures and city administrative officer report relative to social equity in lieu fee and fee deferral. Item number 2 is Motion Rodriguez-Martinez and Los Angeles Department of Water and Power report relative to the viability of implementing an ordinance to allow the city to disconnect utility service to unlicensed businesses engaged in cannabis sales. Item number 3 is Motion Harris-Dawson Huizar relative to a request to the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance that would make working in an illegal cannabis business citable under the city's administrative citation enforcement program. Item number 4 is Motion Harris-Dawson Rodriguez-Cedillo relative to an instruction to the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety to report on an ordinance to enable the Department of Building and Safety to barricade and secure an unlawfully operating cannabis business failing to comply with an order by the city to cease operations. Item number 5 is Motion Harris-Dawson Blumenfeld Buscaino relative to an instruction to the Personnel Department to report on the establishment of a civil service classification of building and safety inspectors responsible for inspections related to the licensure of commercial cannabis businesses, enforcement of illegal cannabis businesses, and other regulatory enforcement.
Thank you. Okay, let's jump to item 2 because we're joined by one of our colleagues today, Mr. Rodriguez. So why don't I call you up? And Mr. Spindler, please be quiet. You had your time to speak. That's the last warning. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. I found today to be very important, and I know this is an issue that many of us have been grappling with since the legalization of cannabis in the state and particularly here in the city of Los Angeles. There has been an extensive proliferation of illegal cannabis retail sites, which has been really damaging to our communities, and particularly I think has been really blowing up in certain districts more so than others. And we were looking for tools to help apply the incentive to make sure that people are participating in the legal process of getting the licenses to assure that they are operating within the guidelines that this committee and this council was so instrumental in working to develop, to make sure that they were complying with the rules and regulations as we've adopted them in the city of Los Angeles. And what we need is an efficient and streamlined enforcement strategy that utilizes our existing city resources to partner with the Department of Cannabis Regulation as the city's licensing body, our Department of Water and Power, and the Los Angeles Police Department, as well as the Department of Building and Safety, so that we can continue to leverage what we have existing in light of the fact that we have not formally dedicated resources to help implement a larger enforcement strategy. We have tools that we can leverage to date to help assure that we will be effective in providing that necessary incentive for those individuals that want to participate in this industry, that they do so by approaching the process legally and assuring that they are actually going through the licensing process that has been established here in the city of Los Angeles with the Department of Cannabis Regulation. Today, I'm happy to report that in conversations with the Los Angeles Police Department's Gang Narcotics Division and Command, the Department of Water and Power and its General Manager, David Wright, and DCR's Cap Packer, we are very close to having a final implementation strategy for us to execute some of these new protocols that will be effective in helping to curtail the illegal dispensary activity. That process will include DCR verifying whether or not the location is permitted, sharing that information with LAPD to verify sales. That will then allow the Department of Water and Power to shut off power in concert with the Los Angeles Police Department's assistance. We need one more piece, and I want to thank Councilmember Harris Dawson for his partnership, and also, there's a number of efforts that we are looking to deploy here to help make an impact in this area, and I want to thank you, sir, for your exemplary leadership in identifying how we can also incorporate the resources and tools available to us with the Department of Building and Safety to help shut down these activities in a more expedient fashion. So again, I appreciate this committee for its work on this issue. It's been a long road, but I think this is the important piece to help assure that people are actually following the rules that we've established here in the city of Los Angeles, that we have compliance when it comes to our licensing and regulatory practice, and that our communities are not going to be experiencing some of the challenges that have come with this proliferation of illegal cannabis activity. Thank you so much.
We thank you for adjusting your calendar to be with us early this morning, and that's greatly appreciated. Even though we chat all of the time, it's important to have our colleagues come and on the record give their thoughts. So just thank you for all of your support and the work that you've been doing on this issue as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I'd like to call the department folk up, city attorney, CAO, I guess, and let's go through these items. Ms. Packer, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. And good morning, Councilmember Harris Dawson and Councilmember Ruizar.
Go ahead, Kat, we'll let you start this out.
So, if I may, I'd like to begin with a brief update. It's been a few months since the Department of Cannabis Regulation has been in front of the Rules Committee, and we have been busy launching the development and implementation of the city's regulatory program. More specifically, we began to accept applications for Phase 2 priority processing back on August 1st of 2018, and that period ran until September 13th. We've received 594 applications. 355 of those applications have paid. And right now, we're focused on prioritizing going through this priority processing for Phase 2 while also building up towards the annual licensing process. While we have been moving through Phase 2 priority processing, we've also made it a point over the course of the last 5 weeks to reach out to each council office to explain the licensing process. To date, we've met with 11 of the 15 council offices and briefed 3 district staff offices as well to share information with city stakeholders about this process. We've also had a number of meetings of our Cannabis Regulation Commission. We'll have more Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings coming up in the fall, specifically to hear appeals relative to Phase 1 priority processing. We also have been working, as Councilwoman Rodriguez described, with a number of different stakeholders on developing and implementing a collaborative and progressive enforcement strategy. This largely started out of the Mayor CENTCOM's working group on cannabis enforcement, but we've met over a dozen times with the stakeholders and departments that have been mentioned before. If you'd like, we can go item by item and explain what we have here before us, but specifically with item 1, I'd actually like to ask my colleague and council.
Well, let's do this. Why don't we just have everybody that's at the table introduce themselves? Then I'm going to call some folk from the public to give their public comment, and then we'll get back into it. So why don't we just go around?
Good morning, Alex Friedman, Deputy City Attorney for Department of Cannabis Regulation.
Good morning, Jason Kleen, Department of Cannabis Regulation, Director of Licensing and Compliance.
Claudia Aguilar with the CAO's office.
We're having a technical glitch. All right. Yeah, that's better. All right. Let's get Christina. In fact, welcome to all of you. Christina Marsh, Rachel Torres, Adam Vine, David Slocum. Please come forward. And Felicia Carbajal. Yes, identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Christina Marsh, co-founder of Loki Lotion. We did not leave LA because it was vital for our business mission to assist the homeless in Los Angeles. We have now been 10 months waiting for our chance. I am an equity applicant, and my business is also in the application process. I stand before you today to request that you amend the social equity law to allow for those of us lacking any zip code to enter the program. I've been a homeless Los Angelino for over 6 years, and I just became housed 3 months ago. I do not believe there is any question that the homeless in Los Angeles have been impacted by the war of cannabis and many other horrors beyond that. I ask that any one of us that has found the courage, strength, and resources to create a brand that goes to legal market for 3 years and meets the qualifications as a business should have the same right. I also ask that you fund Kat Packer in the DCR. She's a vital resource to me and to my industry and to the city, and she needs the money to get us through this process. 10 months, no money, no business. Put yourself there.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Adam Vine, co-founder of Cage Free Cannabis. I live and work in CD 14. Thank you so much for the Rules Committee for convening this today. In support of item number 1, I ask that you continue to support increased oversight and transparency for the social equity program and the cannabis industry as a whole, so that social equity applicants are not taken advantage of by unscrupulous investors. Furthermore, we ask, just like Christina did, for full funding of the DCR so that it can implement its full program, including low-interest loans for social equity applicants, technical and business assistance, workforce development programs, safe consumption sites for low-income residents of Los Angeles, and of course the expansion of the social equity program to the San Fernando Valley and Boyle Heights. Thank you so much for hearing these concerns today.
Thank you for coming. Next speaker, please identify yourself.
Good morning, I'm Felicia Carbajal. I'm a longtime community organizer in both the LGBT and cannabis movement.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Happy Friday. So I want to echo what Adam had said, that we hope to see a lot of transparency. We've seen a lot of hiccups, is what I'd like to call them, in this great city. We'd like to also see Kat get all of the funding that she does in fact need. We support her in every capacity. She's been a tremendous leader and a great asset to our wonderful city. And as Adam said, we have a few asks of support in terms of low interest loans for social equity applicants, technical business assistance, workplace development programs, expansion of the social equity program to include the Valley and Boyle Heights, safe consumption sites, as well as research and education for communities most harmed by the decades of Go Dodgers.
Okay. Come on up, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Torres. I'm the Deputy and Political Civil Rights Director with UFCW, Local 770. We are also here in support of this item. Many of our members come from the communities that were deeply scarred by the war on drugs. Their experiences tell us that, like all wars, the effects are far more than arrest or a record. It's thousands of people who have their families torn apart, who are cut off from opportunities for school and housing and work, who face worsened health for themselves and their families, who lose valuable time to build work and other experience. These traumas last across generations, and so we are here in strong support of more funding. We will never have a chance like this again to repair these harms. At 770, we're working hard to help thousands expunge their records, and in fact, we'll be joining our partners to do more for this week at the National Expungement Week. Many of our members would rather have their taxes go to resolving these damages, and so we need to get back to funding, not just for the general fund, but expanding for social equity. We want to urge this committee to follow the budget item for youth investment and social equity that was from August. Thank you so much.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is David Slocum. I'm the president of Mother Nature's Remedy. I want to thank you for giving me this time. I'm here today to ask about enforcement, as I was one of the original people in 2007 to register. I have also was the first one to get a medical license. I've been paying my taxes, making sure that I follow all the laws, while there has been over 11 collectives that have opened up around me, all open past midnight, 1 a.m., having dab bars, paying no taxes, and I'm wondering when I'm going to see them shut down. I have been in this business for over 14 years, been giving my love and my passion to our members. Meanwhile, they turn around and tell us that, hey, I can go across the street. I don't have to pay taxes there. I can go down the street. I don't have to pay taxes there. And I'm wondering why I'm paying taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Barney. I represent Fountain of Wellbeing. We are a licensed micro business here in Los Angeles. I'm here for the motion for the utility shutdown. I believe that this will be very efficient in shutting down these rogue shops. Literally right across the street from us is a store called NoHo's Finest. They are still dispensing edibles over the 100 milligram limit. These are dangerous to children. And, you know, right now during Halloween time, we have to be especially vigilant. Those of us who are compliant shops are following all the rules. And these rogue shops, I just would like to say we are in support of the enforcement for the utility shutdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if I could get Sarah. I thought I saw her arms. Yeah, there she is. Donnie, Anderson, Virgil, Ruben, please come on up.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am the Director of Industry Affairs for Americans for Safe Access and the Policy Chair for the Southern California Coalition. I urge you in the strongest possible terms to engage in enforcement, meaningful enforcement, as soon as possible. Today, in this audience, are many people who work till 10 o'clock at night and got up at 4 in the morning to come and tell you how important this issue is. These rogues, located too close to sensitive use, are of particular importance for enforcement. The police are finding way too many guns when they raid. Gunplay is an equal opportunity destroyer. It will kill children just as fast as adults. We urge you in the strongest possible terms to make enforcement of sensitive uses your first priority. Many of these people in the audience today have been in this room since 2007. They are honorable people who pay taxes and work hard. Please help them by giving them the enforcement that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
Good morning. My name is Donnie Anderson. I am the president of California Minority Alliance. I come representing the communities of 8, 9, and 10 district. Our communities is fed up with the rogue shops, but we also fed up by allowing pre-ICOs to move. Only the ones that should have been allowed to move that are non-compliant locations. Those, now they're taking locations from people who are social equity candidates who've been paying their rents. This is a major problem. We need to make sure we get this fixed, because now the person that's been having that lease for 6, 7 months can't open there, and that's a problem. We will not allow this to happen. Either the city is going to take action or the community will. Thank you.
Mr. Grant?
Good morning, Council. My name is Virgil Grant.
We've came a long way, but we still have a long way to go. We are appreciative of where we are today. Enforcement is an issue in many different ways. Lack of enforcement is an issue in many different ways. One, lack of enforcement is harming Tier 1. Also, lack of enforcement will impact Tier 2. Because those places that, like my partner said, Donnie, they're paying leases. And so they're being negatively impacted through the fact of that they're paying the money and then they can't open up. The delays are killing us. So we need to kind of speed this thing along. The biggest issue is the lack of enforcement and delays. If we can tidy these two things up, we can see this industry move along in a positive way. We also support Councilwoman Rodriguez and Councilwoman Martinez in the enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please identify yourself, and I'm looking for Nicole Fox, Daniel, Ignite Daniel, Kika, Shakina Shakur. Yes.
Good morning, Council President Wesson, council members. My name is Ruben Honig, and I'm the Executive Director of the UCBA Trade Association. First, I wanted to take a moment to thank Councilmember Harris Dawson, Council Members Rodriguez and Martinez for their work with the motions on enforcement, and this is a serious issue that our membership in all licensed stores across Los Angeles are dealing with right now. To be completely blunt, all stores right now are in survival mode, and without an active and aggressive approach towards illegal stores, we are going to have a possible issue on our hands with stores possibly going out of business. So please continue your work. We will continue to work with you, and thank you so much for giving me the time to speak today.
No, thank you for coming in so early. Next speaker, please. Good morning.
Greetings. Ignite with the Black Cannabis Coalition. My sister and I drove back and forth to Sacramento attending committee meetings to ensure the very community this cannabis industry has incarcerated at just about a 4-to-1 rate, ripping families apart at their core, is not cut out of the economic benefit this industry now yields. A few ways we can see to it that this doesn't happen is to enact an emergency moratorium to keep pre-ICOs from moving out of compliant locations, require pre-ICOs in disproportionately affected areas be held to the same community benefits plans as social equity applicants, as well as require all pre-ICOs to give back to the communities that have been targeted throughout the so-called war on drugs. Furthermore, if LA Cannabis Company is allowed to bully their way onto Crenshaw Boulevard with their 4th location, which they moved from a compliant location into a community they have been a part of for 11 years and have not hired locally, nor have given back anything to the community, social equity applicants seeking ownership and opportunities in their communities where they live and work will be left out.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come and identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Nicole Fox. I'm a lifelong advocate for social justice and cannabis access. I've been a member of the LA cannabis community for almost 16 years, operating dispensaries and now in cultivation. And I'm here to voice my strong support for all of the enforcement actions listed today. I recently had a friend who owns one of the older collectives, a pre-ICO in town, call me for a referral for a bankruptcy attorney because that is actually happening to them. I'm also in full support of all actions to fully fund the social equity program and support CAT's amendments to more clearly define equity interest and protect the participants of the social equity program from predatory business interest. That is also actually happening. I speak as a legacy member of this industry that has been patient with the slow rollout of this program. It's really time to step it up, speed it up, and create a successful, safe, coordinated cannabis industry together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Kika Keith. I am a longtime resident of the 8th and 10th district. I have raised children in this district. I've created programs, nonprofit organizations for youth in the community. And one thing that we looked at this program and the social equity program as an opportunity to benefit our community, and that is being taken away from us on the Crenshaw corridor with LA Cannabis Company, moving their location from a compliant location onto the Crenshaw corridor, which is historically African American. So that eliminates the opportunities for anyone in social equity to be a part of the business opportunities and benefit directly to the community. We are asking that there is a moratorium that disallows pre-ICOs to be able to move, especially into areas that are disproportionately affected by the war on drugs. Thank you.
Thank you. So did we get Shakina Shakur, Mark Mashoni, Reggie Edwards, Yvette in? Please come forward. Elizabeth Osterman, Amon Brown. Please come forward. If I've called your name, because I want to try to give everybody a chance to speak.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Osterman. I'm co-founder of Loki Lotion and owner of Loki Lotion, a topical cannabis company in Los Angeles. I came into the cannabis arena as skeptic, but hopeful that we could get ahead of the opioid crisis and at the same time provide pain relief and comfort for all ages and demographics. I came to believe in the products because I saw people's lives changing before my eyes. The war on drugs was not a war on drugs, but rather a war on drug users, swelling our prisons populations and creating vast numbers of convicted felons, people with very slim chances of finding employment and housing upon release, but who wind up on our streets, homeless and with few resources. Now this war on drug users mindset seems to be following legalization of cannabis and creating impossible barriers for providers. We must get adequate resources in place for cannabis businesses. I have been without income for over 8 months because in order to stay legal, we had to remove our products from shelves. Enough is enough. Now bureaucratic red tape and unnecessary delays are choking service providers.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Reggie Edwards. I'm an employee at Wonderland Dispensary in Los Angeles. I'm also a vice president and member of UFCW Local 770. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years trying to get this moved along, and we're deeply grateful for the leadership here in the Rules Committee for what you all have implemented in the social equity program, but we feel that there is still work left to do. First, we urge the city to follow the DCR's guidance and better define the equity interest. Second, we urge the city to put real resources down to ensure the success of the social equity program. I myself am extremely interested in owning my own cannabis business one day, and I look forward to everything that you guys have planned, and I hope we can move this along very quickly. We're determined to support the city in this endeavor, and I'd like to thank you, Councilman, and also Director Packer for your support and leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Please identify yourself.
Good morning, committee. My name is Yvette McDowell. You have it listed as Yvette Ann.
Yes.
That was my mistake. Apologize for that. The reason I'm up here this morning is I'm here to support a young lady by the name of Julie Green who approached me this morning visibly shaken, and it's in regards to item number 1. But since she approached me, it gave me an opportunity to really talk about the war on drugs and what's happening. And I think she's going to be a prime example of what we mean when we talk about the devastating effect that the war on drugs has. So I am here for moral support for her, and hopefully you will listen real closely to this incident. I would like to yield my remaining time to her so she will have a chance
No,
to
you
speak
finish.
with
I'm going to
you.
call her.
Okay,
So go on.
fantastic. Again, please listen real closely to what she's talking about, because this is an impact that's being had by people of color all over this United States of America, and we really want you to address this.
Okay, Miss Green, where are you? Come on. Followed by Lisa Saboro. Yes.
Good morning. I came here actually on behalf of my clients to help address some of the delays in phase 2 processing, but I find myself surprisingly sharing my story with Yvette about a raid that I experienced on June 28th in Van Nuys. We were raided by the LAPD, and although I understand the reasons behind it, the level of brutality and the unnecessary amount of force that was, it's very upsetting and extremely shameful. So I apologize for my shaky voice, but we were detained for 8 hours. We were on the receiving end of machine guns pointed at our chests and our hearts. I'm a white woman. I live in Brentwood. I'm a soccer mom. And I shudder to think if I was black, Latino, transgender, or any of the other minority groups that are so well represented in the city. I am dealing with the issue, and my attorneys are dealing with the issue as well. However, I feel we need to discuss about why LAPD has to be so intense with their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did we get Amon Brown, Mark Mashoni? Oh, come on up.
Hi there. I'm sorry I wasn't in when you called me originally. Iman Brown.
Okay.
Okay.
I've been looking for you.
I am so
Start
glad I'm here.
our time all over again. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. I'm coming in actually to represent for residents of the Baldwin Hills community and other areas that surround the Crenshaw corridor. And specifically what I wanted to discuss with you all this morning is the concern that residents like myself and others in the community have, specifically with a dispensary that recently opened called the LA Cannabis Co. And my understanding is they are a non-minority owned operation. This is now their 4th dispensary that they have opened, and historically for them at least, and I'm sure for the other operating dispensaries, they don't have representation of people who look like the folks living in the community. They're not hiring people that live in the community where they are doing business, and they also are not reinvesting in the community. That's a big concern of mine and others like myself. They are in a position where they are getting a lot of money conducting business in these areas, but they're not reinvesting, and that's a concern. So for us, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you Lisa?
Yes.
Come on up. You're next.
Good morning. I hope you're all well. My name is Lisa Sawadio. I am a lifelong resident of the San Fernando Valley, the northernmost tip of David Reuse District, which is the Sherman Oaks-Van Nuys border. I am an attorney, and I am new to the cannabis space, and what brought me to the cannabis space was the social equity program. I see a great promise that has not yet been realized in the program. I would like to see the social equity program expanded, or maybe have a complementary program which addresses businesses which have a social benefit or social purpose in mind. Something more akin to West Hollywood's more holistic approach to licensing, where people can give their pitch to the city and show that they want to give back to the city, so that if the reinvestment fund does not manifest itself, something like this could then work through the for-profit sector.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have someone named Yui? Again, Shakina Shakar, Mark Mashoni. Okay, Mr. Herman. Or, in fact, no, Marcy Lyles, Walter Edwards. And Mr. Herman, you're right here, so you can come on. You'll get a minute 2 minutes for the items, and then your general public comment.
Well, if it's not kids and cannabis, it should be cannabis for kids. Cannabis is known to help children who have disabilities. It's known to help the elderly. It's known to help communities, as you heard how LAPD violently took action with their assault rifles and challenged a customer of mine. See, we all voted for Measure 64, and we allowed this to happen. We allowed all of this to happen. And now we're making rules and regulations in disruption of a practice and pattern. The city of Los Angeles continues to extort money from businesses. It's time that jackasses like you, who can't legislate on behalf of true business, in which the voters said, let's smoke a toke. And you already know, Herman, you smoke so much outside illegally. What's the difference from cannabis?
Stay on the item. Now, why don't you just stay on the item? In fact, give him his 1 minute for general public comment. Wait a minute. Stop your time. Mr. Spindler, No, no, I told you to be quiet at this point. I have the floor, not you. This is a very serious item. And I'm not going to let you and Mr. Spindler come in and disrupt it. So you're going to stay on the item. Mr. Spindler, you're going to be quiet or you will be removed from disrupting this meeting. People that are coming here today, their lives depend on this business, and they didn't come here to laugh and joke and speak with puppets and things of that nature. So we let you speak. Now you're going to let them speak. Mr. Herman, you're on topic or you're in general public comment. You make the call.
How in the fuck can cannabis sales be a disruption in our lives? How in the fuck can cannabis-related businesses be subjected to misdemeanors and felonies over Measure 64? How in the fuck can the business fail to comply if the voters voted for Measure 64? And white nigger politicians like you came up with this fucking bullshit of rules. Fuck you for the stealing. Fuck you for the arrest. And on behalf of all the hardworking people who are DBA behind me, fuck you, Herman Jason Wesson. We're going to smoke our shit till we die. As long as there's cannabis on this earth and there's Native Americans up on that column, I'll be here fucking with your mind, fucking with your smoke, fucking with your hash, and telling Jose Weezer, stop fucking drinking, you fucking jackass.
Take your seat. No, you just used it. Go take your seat. Okay, next speaker.
Good morning, Marcy Lyles.
Welcome.
Thank you for the city for what you've done so far. I am a social equity applicant. I do reside in District 10. It's really not fair for these legal businesses that are trying to be in business to have to suffer and wait to open because of the illegal shops that are staying open. So people that might have the ICO seem to be opening up and securing properties in districts 8, 9, and 10 before people like myself even have a chance to open. It's going to be saturated. We're not going to have a chance. My son at 20 had to run out of a rogue shop like 4 months ago on Vernon, where there had been gunfire, people were shooting and shot, and it's just ridiculous to see what happened, to checking in with the neighborhood council, to see what our requirements are as constituents and as a neighborhood, like contributing to local nonprofits and the needs of this community. If social equity is not successful, this industry is going to be targeted.
So let me get Sergio and Tomar. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
My name is Walter Edwards.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I praise you for everything you guys have done this far. I reside in 8, 9, and 10. I reside now in 8. Dawson, we thank you and everything you're doing. Praise the Lord. I lived in 10th, and I went to school in 9th. And I just want to say, you know, as far as the retail is concerned, that we do need to up it up. And we do need to come on with it and let us get out here and get the benefits of this social equity. We're still out there. We're still in ashes. This war on drug is not over. We're still out here dying. We're still out here suffering. And we need help. We need help, good help. And we thank you for all the social equity pieces that you put in. But we like to see those. We like to applaud the state for their social equity piece that they just put in. So we just need this help, and we just need to get out there and make it happen. And we support everything you're doing for the rogue shops to shut them down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come. Sergio.
Hi, my name is Sergio Ingstrom. I work for CannabisLicense.com. I would like to speak about the motions that everyone is talking about, which is shutting down the rogue shops, which is a great step of the DCR is taking. However, there's another step that needs to be done simultaneously, which is executing the processing for phase 2 operators that will be giving the products to the licensed dispensaries that are already licensed. Now, if you take away the rogue shops, these people, where are they going to sell to? And so this creates a problem within the chain of command in cannabis. If the manufacturers can't get their license through LA, they can't sell to the pre-ICO who has their license, and now the rogue shops are being shut down, they can't sell to the rogue shops, so it just creates a big problem. So what I'm asking is that the processing for phase 2 happen simultaneously as the shutdown of rogue shops so that we avoid this roadblock in the future. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Tomar?
Good morning. My name is Tomer Graciani. I'm an applicant under the chain of supply. I'd like to echo some of the concerns that we have. You know, we paid for the license over a month ago. We're paying rent. We're not hearing anything. We're about to run out of money if we don't get some sort of approval for a license. And it just seems like the city is going to make bank without, I mean, I just can't think of another industry where you're paying $13,000 and you don't hear back for a month. Another thing I want to speak of is enforcement. And while I definitely understand the concerns of a lot of the shops here, I think it's just a numbers game. There's, 7 million people in LA, and if they're all supposed to go to 155 shops, it's just not going to work. Another thing are the employees there that I'm reading are getting arrested. I think that these are basically future social equity applicants, and you're just putting misdemeanors on their record and other things on their record where they don't even, they may not even know that they're working in an illegal shop.
Thank you. Thank you. So those are all the cards that I have, but would you identify yourself?
Mark McConey, you guys called me.
Oh, I called you earlier.
Yes.
Go ahead.
How you doing? I'm from the United Stoners Association. I'm also from the newly formed Black Coalition for Cannabis Business. And one of the issues that we're finding that's going on right now with the way the law is written up, it's allowing pre-ICOs to basically step on what social equity was created for. Social equity, from my understanding, was created to give an opportunity for people who have been affected by the war on drugs, low income, and different things of that nature to have an opportunity to get off into the cannabis business themselves. The problem is the way it's written up, it's allowing for pre-ICOs to just freely move about Los Angeles and other places. So when you have a dispensary or somebody who's worked very hard to go through all the process for social equity.
Finish your sentence. Quick, finish your.
Okay, yeah, they go through the process for social equity. They find a location, get a location, then all of a sudden the pre-ICO is just able to move in down the street.
Gotcha.
And after that person done paid all their money, and now they're out their money. So we need to really address that particular situation.
Okay, that concludes, Mr. City Attorney. I think we've had ample. No, we are concluding general public comment. We called everybody whose name was on the list. So let's go back to our panel of folk that are here. I'm going to open this up to the other members on the committee, but a couple of things, just seems to be, quilted through just about every statement that was made. One is individuals that are moving around, trying to, in some respects, take advantage of areas that we're attempting to help with social equity programs. So I want to know where we are with that. And the other thing is, and I don't know if we have law enforcement that are here today, the enforcement seems to be a big problem, where we have individuals that are doing the best that they can to pay the bills, pay their taxes, but we have these illegal operators that are just, operating and moving around. So let's talk about enforcement, and let's talk about this. I want to hear your thoughts on some of the other concerns that were brought up. But really, on enforcement, do we need to try to put together a special task force or something that really goes out, identifies these areas, and tries to, protect the businesses that are playing by the rules? So I just want you to share your thoughts, and I'd like to hear from law enforcement, building safety as well.
Thank you, Council President. I know that there are a number of folks here who'd like to talk about enforcement, so if I could quickly address the existing medical marijuana dispensaries and their ability to relocate. Our cannabis ordinance does allow businesses who have gone through our Phase 1 priority processing and received temporary approval to change locations, subject to restrictions of the location restriction ordinance that was passed. So these businesses would have to be compliant with sensitive uses, they would have to be zoned appropriately, but we recognize the concern that community members have addressed today. We had recognized it independently, and so before you today, you do have recommendations on an amendment that would allow for an immediate moratorium of any new relocation requests.
Go ahead, Mr. Weezer.
If I could ask a question on that. So existing dispensaries, the pre-ACOs, we have new requirements and regulations prior to what existed before under Prop D. So if they are not compliant under our new regulations, do they have the opportunity to move so that they could be compliant, or what's the relief for that?
So the ordinance allowed existing medical marijuana dispensaries to do one of two things. If their location was compliant with Prop D requirements, they could stay in that particular location for a period of 5 years. After that 5-year period, they would have to move because they would be no longer compliant with the Measure M and local restrictions ordinances that were passed in December. They could also choose to move to then be compliant with our new local restrictions. So businesses historically and currently have had the ability to either play by Prop D rules for 5 years or to move and be compliant with the new rules as they were passed back in December.
And so they were allowed to move, but now with the moratorium, if someone is non-compliant and there's a moratorium, they would have to wait till the 5 years after, since there's a moratorium.
So what we're recommending is that these businesses wait until they secure an annual license before they move, because essentially each of these existing medical marijuana dispensaries plants a flag that creates these sensitive use buffers, and essentially the chessboard has been changing as these businesses move. And so in order to allow for a fair process for folks to see exactly what is going on, we would like and recommend that these businesses, for new applications, we'd be instructed for an immediate moratorium.
Okay. But so the existing dispensaries, their options are, if they are not compliant and they haven't moved, they would have to wait till 5 years now.
They should have been compliant already, and I will
Oh, when they reapplied for their license, for their temporary, right?
Yeah, so, sorry, Jason Klein, Department of Cannabis Regulation. So businesses may be asked to move by the department if they're in a non-compliant location. So we had a number of locations in the San Fernando Valley that were either too close to an existing medical marijuana dispensary who already got a temporary approval, and based on their lease agreements, they were the last player in, which means in order to be compliant, they would have to move to a new location to adhere to the sensitive use and distancing restrictions. We have other issues where businesses were just completely non-compliant, where they were too close to a school, and that school's not moving anywhere, so they needed to move. But because they were non-compliant with Proposition D, they were required to move to a location that was compliant with Proposition M, which means that they either moved into a commercial location and they gave up their ability to engage in non-retail activities, or they moved into a manufacturing and industrial zone and applied as a micro business, thereby allowing them to stay vertically integrated. There are a number of businesses that have run into issues with their landlords, where the landlord has refused to sign letters authorizing them to engage in this activity, which has prevented the applicant from moving forward with their state license, which is required. Therefore, the applicant has decided to move to a new location so that they can continue to pursue their state license. We have applicants that, for one reason or another, had moved after the Office of Finance had basically put their moratorium in place, preventing address changes with them. So it basically, in order for the city to recognize where they are currently operating, we had to reanalyze that new location and allow them to move the BTRC and the license to that location. But as we are shifting the chessboard, all of those businesses do have to adhere to the rules and regs that were adopted as part of Proposition M and the land use ordinance. So nobody who is moving now is getting any unforeseen benefit or anything else that was bestowed by the Prop D or the grandfathering clause. Businesses that receive their annual license may apply to move to a new location. If they do have an annual license, they are subject to undue concentration findings and everything else. So basically, there's a level playing field once the applicant has applied for their annual license and or been granted the annual license, that they have to play by the same rules.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much. So if I can just get a reset on this matter, the two options for pre-ICO businesses are to stay where they are for 5 years or to avail themselves of this opportunity to move to really any location in the city of LA that meets the distancing requirements.
Correct.
That's correct. So what about pre-ICO licensees that are in compliant spaces right now? Can they also avail themselves of the ability to move anywhere in the city of Los Angeles?
Our current ordinance does allow them to request a relocation request, and as long as the business premises meets all the new requirement, we are allowed to process the request.
So the assertion that in an area where there are limited opportunities for licensing, the pre-ICOs could take up all the licensings before you all even start issuing social equity licenses.
They do have the ability to move around as current, correct?
So that concern is consistent with your understanding of the policy.
Yes.
I'm putting forward a motion consistent with your recommendation that we request the city attorney, with the assistance of DCR, to present an ordinance to amend Section 1972 of Article 5.1 of Chapter 4 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to prohibit EMMD relocations prior to the issuance of an annual license, and instruct DCR to cease accepting and approving new relocation requests while this ordinance is under consideration by the Los Angeles City Council. This is a big concern for us. This council, as you know, you were right alongside us under the leadership of our president. We spent a lot of time trying to get a social equity program that will produce outcomes where the communities have been most impacted could see some benefit from the pullback of the war on drugs, which started so many years ago and had such an impact. And right now we have a policy in place that would basically invalidate that, at least in the areas that the social equity applicants would come from, because it's geographically located. And so we'll put that motion forward, and I'll have more comments about enforcement as we go forward.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the plans to address concerns where it relates to rogue shops.
Good morning,
Morning.
This is Steve Carmona. I'm the commanding officer of Gang and Narcotics Division, LAPD.
Welcome.
Thank you. So in regards to our enforcement of rogue shops, we are still using the criteria of significant criminal activity, and that decision on what constitutes significant criminal activity is up to the commander of the area station for which that retail location is. So just so I can give you an update of what the department has done, because we have been very aggressive in regards to illegal cannabis retailers. So year to date, there's been a total of 131 search warrants served, 428 arrests made, 180 of those felony, 248 misdemeanor. There's been 67 firearms recovered. There's been over 34,000 pounds of cannabis seized, and over $600,000 seized from those illegal operations. So the department is working very diligently to shut down those cannabis locations, specifically the ones where we have significant criminal activity. Where we're seeing the disconnect is we're not seeing the consequence. Although we've had 180 arrests, felony arrests, I believe we've had just a handful of felony filings. And on the misdemeanor arrests that have been made, the consequence for a misdemeanor arrest is so light, it's really no consequence when it comes to weighing how much money is being made with a illegal retailer and what the consequence is legally.
Okay. I think maybe what we need to do is quickly try to pull together a meeting with the city attorney, PD, the department, and try to come up with some kind of citywide approach. You know, I respect each area commander, but there could be a way after we have some conversations to be more efficient in the way that we go about it. And the only way that we can come up with a plan is to put everybody in the same room. So my office will take the lead in trying to bring that together. And then once we come up with a plan, I'll quickly bring it before this committee so that the public can see how we're going to aggressively try to protect their interests and to do what we can to police those that are not doing this in the appropriate way. So thank you for that. Did you have...
Yeah, I had a couple of questions.
Go right ahead.
On enforcement. And this is open to anybody at the table. Of the 428 people that have been arrested, how many of those people do you know have been the owners of the property?
Unfortunately, I don't know that. I know the city attorney's office has a specific cannabis enforcement unit that tries to find out who the owners of the property are. That's one of the issues that we're trying to resolve in order for, at this point, for us to have effective enforcement. Finding the owners would be a priority, because addressing or citing or arresting individuals that are working there really isn't an effective tool. So that is one of the goals that we're working towards in order to find out who the owners. A lot of times the owners are out of state, off-site. They're rarely ever at the location. The individuals who are working there claim to be volunteers. Someone opens the shop, they go inside, they conduct business, and at that point, according to them, they're never in contact with the owners.
So the provision that that the voters passed, that landowners, which was really important to people in my district, that landowners would be fined on a per-day basis, some amount up to $20,000 a day. Do we know or have any record of that provision being implemented at any location anywhere in the entire city of Los Angeles?
Could we have the city attorney maybe come up to the table? Don't be shy. Let's.
Good morning, Rita Hernandez Venegas. I'm actually here on item 3. I am the supervising attorney of the ACE program, and I have my colleague Meredith Ford. He was the supervisor of our medical enforcement unit, which I believe those questions, the questions that Council Member Harris Dawson was asking about.
Good morning. If I could ask the council member to repeat your question.
The question is, Measure M, which the voters passed, has a provision in it to fine landowners who have illegal cannabis activity happening at their properties a significant amount, up to $20,000 a day. That was a very, very important provision, and one way that caused voters, at least in my district, to believe that a lot of these rogue shops would be dealt with. I'm wondering, have we implemented that fine on any landowner anywhere in the city of Los Angeles since the passage of Measure M?
If the council member is referring to the daily fine, there, as I'm sure council members are aware, a number of criminal cases that have been filed in.
I appreciate that. I'm not asking about that.
Okay.
I'm asking about the civil fine against the landowner.
We've not filed any new civil cases since the beginning of the year. There were some that were filed at the end of 2017. We've not collected. I would have to double check on whether money has actually been collected. We have filed against property owners in at any time we're able to identify them in the criminal cases and have proceeded against them in that manner.
Maybe we should request a report or set a hearing where we ask the city attorney to come in along with PD, which is what I was talking about earlier. I'm sure everybody has the best of intentions. They want to get the job done. I think it's probably this committee's responsibility to make sure that we're doing this in some kind of coordinated fashion. It's just, I could be wrong, but it appears to me that that's what's lacking here. And if we get everybody together, put them on the same page, it looks as though we could be more effective. So I'll speak with staff to try to come up with what is the best way and the legal way for us to bring people together and have that conversation. And I would love to be able to have that conversation so that the folk that live in the city can see how we're trying to put this together, because what I have found throughout this process, a lot of the recommendations that they have given us have been good recommendations, and we'd want to incorporate that into what it is we ultimately do. But it's apparent to me that we need to do something. We need to do it with haste, and it needs to be effective, but more importantly, it needs to be nimble. It just seems to me that we are not as nimble as we need to be.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I think that's a very constructive approach. I think I will acknowledge that, you know, the war on drugs was first named as an official policy of the government in 1970, and it went on until really just a couple years ago, a full couple generations. And so to undo that's going to be difficult, and it's a big, big task. And I think it's the onus is on all of us to push and push the envelope as hard as we can, because otherwise we will do what we've always done. And I'm afraid that going forward, if going in dispensaries and arresting people and catching them doing other things, that's not too much different than what we did on the war on drugs. We found people who were dealing drugs and we arrested them. And so we gotta, that's an important component, but it's got to be joined with all of the things that the voters put forward in Measure M, many of which are recommendations from folks that are in the room and part of this discussion today. And so I think we can do it. I think the intention and the spirit is there. I just think it's going to take some work for us to get it done. And so I am very supportive and enthusiastic about Council President's suggestion that we pull together a task force.
Okay. So with that said, why don't we take some action if there are no more questions? Mr. Clerk, on item 1, let's adopt the recommendations of the chair. On 2, we'll adopt the motion, note and file the DWP report, and instruct the CLA in coordination with DCR, DWP City Attorney, and LAPD to report back with recommendations that address the issues outlined by DWP. On item 3, we'll adopt the motion. On item 4, we will adopt the motion and request the city attorney to prepare and present a draft ordinance as outlined in that motion. And on item 5, we will adopt the motion.
Pardon me, Mr. Chair. On item number 1, I was advised by the city attorney that we do need to read the chair's recommendations into the record.
We'll go right ahead.
The chair's recommendations are, number 1, adopt the Department of Cannabis regulation reports as amended to request the city attorney, with the assistance of the Department of Cannabis regulation, to prepare and present draft ordinances to the city council by November 9, 2018, which shall also include addressing the 2 issues outlined in the October 14, 2018 letter submitted by the Southern California Coalition and Americans for Safe Access, as well as the pending cannabis corporate responsibility policy. Number 2, note and file the CAO report and request the city attorney, with the assistance of the Department of Cannabis regulation and the CAO, to prepare and present draft ordinances to the city council by November 9, 2018, with respect to an in lieu fee for Tier 3 social equity applicants, an annual renewal fee, and an ownership change application fee. Furthermore, instruct the Department of Cannabis regulation in coordination with the CAO to prepare and provide the necessary analysis with respect to all 3 fees for council consideration. Number 3, instruct the Department of Cannabis regulation, with the assistance of the CAO and city attorney, to report back on a fee deferral policy that may include the following criteria. $1 million appropriation for the first 3 years to set up a revolving fund for the fee deferral program. B, limit to Tier 1 and Tier 2 social equity applicants. C, funding mechanism for fee deferrals. D, cap on the number of applicants for fee deferrals. E, determination on which applicants would receive fee deferrals and criteria is determined by the Department of Cannabis Regulation. And F, applicants who elect to participate in the program will have payback timeline between 6 to 12 months. Number 4, request the city attorney with the assistance of the Department of Cannabis Regulation and the Los Angeles Police Department to implement a 90-day policy of non-enforcement with respect to Phase 2 applications for commercial cannabis activity. Furthermore, request the city attorney with the assistance of the Department of Cannabis Regulation and the Los Angeles Police Department to report back with recommendations with respect to enforcement of illegal cannabis businesses that may include a prioritization of enforcement against different types of illegal cannabis businesses based on established criteria. And finally, number 5, instruct the city clerk to send letters to the CAO and the chief legislative analyst with respect to the reports as outlined in Council File number 18-1800-S2, Motion 20A, as adopted by the City Council, and provide notification that these reports are required to be submitted to the City Council by November 9th, 2018.
Okay, thank you. So that's been read into the record. But Mr. City Attorney, we'd already distributed in the back over 100 copies. Mr. Harris Dawson, did you?
I just want to make sure you read a lot there, and I apologize if you read this, but I put forward a motion. I just want to make sure
yes.
that's part of it.
Yes, and as well, the chair's recommendations are amended by Councilmember Harris Dawson to request the city attorney with the assistance of the Department of Cannabis Regulation.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh,
we're
okay.
Good. Is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
This committee's adjourned. Thank everyone for coming.